Hello and welcome to Todd Miller TV, your resource for what's current in the Las Vegas real estate market. And I am joined today by Oana. Hello Oana, how are you?
Hello Todd, I'm great.
Good. So what I wanted to ask you was, you list a lot of properties, so you represent a lot of different sellers. And what I want to get a feel of, what is the role you have in the transaction? Because I've got to tell you, a lot of people think, especially buyers think that you're the one making the calls. You're the one agreeing to stuff, and if their offer doesn't get accepted or, whatever, it's your fault. So tell me, as a listing agent, what is the role of the listing agent?
The role of the listing agent is to facilitate the transaction between the buyer and the seller. So I deal with the seller, who's my client, and then I also deal with the buyer's agent. I do not have authority to accept or deny any offer. I do not have authority to bind my client to anything. So when you're asking me for appliances, all I do is relay that information back to the seller. I cannot say, yes, you can have appliances, or no, you can't have appliances. I do not have authority to bind the client to anything one way or another.
Okay, so that's a good point. So then you're really kind of a messenger.
Absolutely.
Okay. Now, but you have other functions because you market the property and you do other things.
Yes.
But when it comes down to negotiation, you're really just a messenger. You take the message from the buyer or from the seller, you deliver that to the buyer agent, and then that agent delivers it to the agent.
Correct.
Have you ever had a time when the buyer felt it was necessary to contact you directly?
I have had buyers contact me directly, and when they do, I am polite, I am courteous, but I let them know that I represent the seller, I don't represent them. They have an agent, and they need to direct all their questions and concerns to their agent, not to me. I have fiduciary responsibility to my client, that is the seller. I have a duty to everyone to be fair and to disclose everything I know about the property, but I cannot have a conversation really with a client that I do not represent. So, because there's an ethical code that says that I cannot have dealings with someone else's client. Just as the buyer's agent cannot contact my client, the seller, I cannot have a conversation with the buyer's agent's client, the buyer.
Okay. So what do you recommend for a buyer out there who's frustrated with their agent because they feel like, their agent keeps saying, I haven't heard anything, and, they're getting, especially with short sales and sometimes on bank owns, it's been a few days or a week, and they haven't heard anything back on their offer or in some addendum they sent over, and, what do you tell that person to, what would you advise them to do? They're working with an agent, what would you say to do?
They chose that agent for a reason. That agent is professional. That agent represents their best interests. That agent represents them. And really, that's what they need to understand, that they do need that representation. They do need that protection. They do need that advice. And they need to stick with that agent. They need to understand that that agent has their best interests in mind. That interest also pertains to the agent in the sense that that agent isn't getting paid until the transaction closes. So that agent has every incentive to facilitate the transaction and make it move along as quickly as possible, so they're not dragging their feet. Neither am I when I'm representing a seller. It's my goal to close the property as quickly as possible. So I'm never just sitting down and not doing my job. I answer my phone a lot. I even answer calls on the weekends, and I do get the calls occasionally from buyers saying, I can't get a hold of my agent, you're representing a seller, and I want X, Y, and Z. And at that point I tell them, I'm acknowledging your request, I understand that, please get together with your agent and put that in writing, and then we'll go ahead and we'll deal with that. And then the next thing I do is send that agent an email saying, hey, I just got contacted by your client, this is what they need, you need to get in touch with them.
Perfect.
It's very important that the two sides understand that part of the role of the agent is to facilitate the transaction and to keep the transaction businesslike. It works really well when you're dealing with the agents dealing with each other and not with the buyer dealing with the seller's agent or the seller dealing with the buyer's agent. It's very important that we all stay on our own sides of the fence, so to speak, so that the transaction can remain professional, unemotional, and can close on time.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right, so that's today's episode. Stay tuned for future episodes. And don't forget, you can go on the page. There's a little button to get email updates or subscribe to the RSS feed if you want to see more. And, of course, you can always find me on YouTube. You've been watching Todd Miller TV. Thank you.